Welcome back to the Desoto RESTO mod part 2. And I wanted to get back to the engine just briefly. I did find another photograph of the engine when I first had it rebuilt and plopped it in. The gentleman who did it for me, actually it was two of them, was Bill Matthias, who ran a place called the Powerhouse in Vienna. And he's the one I had mentioned once before that he built some engines for Bunny Burkett. And I still have the carburetor you see right there. I rebuilt it a few weeks ago. Well, maybe about a month ago I rebuilt it. And there's his business card. I still have it. He's not there anymore, but I still have it. And here's a photograph of the driver's side inner fender. And you can see why all of these fenders rotted out, because that's the only inner fender you've got. You can also see the word remote written there, so that when it came down the line they could put a remote in it, a remote mirror. I begun stripping the old stuff, the old paint off the car, and it had a lot of rust holes right along that center portion where they had the sweep. And right there you can even see my old 75 Monaco back there. Here's where I began sanding what turned out to be a special roof. It was an identical roof to the Adventurer, but it came on the Spring Special. I thought it was just rust and somebody put spackle on it, but turns out it was actually from the factory, supposed to be that way. And that's me having yanked off those fresh fenders from South Carolina. One of them still has some paint left on it. That's the tail end of the car with all of the hardware pulled off. You can see that the right side of that trunk lid has a little problem, and that required some work later on. This picture shows another view of how, because there's no inner fender well there. There's no inner fender well, and Chrysler just didn't do their engineering when it came to that. They made a mistake. Those cars rotted out horribly. Here's a picture of the replacement fender after I'd stripped most of the paint off. That's the first run. Believe it or not, those things come in several pieces. It's not all one piece. And the light bucket and that front piece in front of the wheel, all of that was welded onto the center piece. And there's the driver's side door. When I stripped all the paint off of that, there was no rust in that little spot between the holes. That's the color sweep. But you can see right there on the passenger side, those little pock marks. Those had to be, well, we ground them out, and then the guys in the body shop went ahead and stick welded and brazed up those things. And that's, that's how we took care of the rust. That's not too bad. And that shows you the extent of what was gone body-wise, what was rusted away. And this guy did a pretty good job of fabricating sheet metal. You can see some of the brazing work there. They would braze up some of those pock marks and then grind it down. And there's some more stitch work. The guys, they did a pretty good job. There's an internal picture. That's one of the holes in the floorboard that's on the driver's side. And it was almost like it was Fred Flintstone time. That's the rocker panel from the passenger side. That was like in the process. They had strips of metal and then they built it up again with a welder. And that's not quite finished, but it was primed up and ready to paint. That was, as you can see, the replacement rocker panel there. It was a little rusted, but hadn't gotten to it yet. Here's that part of the trunk I was telling you was going to need some work. And there's the skin work. That's skinning over that section that had a lot of metal replaced. And then to the driver's side of the car and the tail, once again, that kind of tells the story about exactly how much work had to be done there. So they did a lot of nice skinning work. My hat's off to those two guys. And they were working in a dealership and just kind of working on the car for me a little bit at a time. It took 2 years. It was in the shop there for 2 years. It was kind of tough to wait that long, but I didn't have a lot of money, so these guys were cutting me a lot of break, and I really appreciate it. And also have to say thanks to my sister and brother-in-law, Pat and Kenny. They did let me keep the car in their garage for some time. So that's it for now. See you next time.